Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode. I did something a little bit different this episode because a lot of my podcast is uplifting, lighthearted, but I have what you will see here is an interview that I did with her name is Raine, and she experiences paranormal and things that she can't explain, apparitions, and she also has had a near death experience. So I just wanted to set the precedent of this will be a little bit of the darker side of paranormal. So just forewarning for my sensitive listeners out there, I totally get it. But I think with it being around Halloween, having something spooky, and then also not everything dealing with being sensitive or empathic is always lighthearted, right? I just wanted to delve deeper into that and see what you guys thought. I think this is a great interview, so please enjoy. Hi, Raine. Thank you for
Hi.
joining me on Spiritual Connections by Joelle podcast.
Hello, how are you?
Good, good.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. I'm excited about today's episode. I follow Rain on TikTok
Mhm.
and she started coming out and feeling more comfortable of telling her story, telling specific things that happened to her. And I think the biggest thing that I listened to was her near-death experience that we will definitely delve deeper into. But I
Mhm.
think the best way to get to know somebody is start from the beginning of your spiritual activity, your background, like where it all started for you. Just feel comfortable to start wherever you feel.
Sure. So it goes back very young, actually. So I feel like every house I've ever lived in has been haunted. Some of it's spooky, some of it not so much. Some of it was just like misunderstanding. I did not obviously have boundaries as a kid, but around the age of 2 or 3, I lived with my dad primarily. He would notice that I would be like talking and laughing and giggling with entities that weren't there, like full on conversations. Like we would turn on Cartoon Network, the TVs would just turn on, my toys would be thrown across the room, and I would be blaming it on my friend. And come to find out, her name was Abigail. So I lived in my grandparents' house until I was 3 or 4, about 4. And I remember actually what she looked like. And I would play with her and
You're
she would come
describing
in my
Abigail?
room.
Sorry to
Yes,
interrupt. You're describing
Abigail.
Abigail.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Because I jump around.
That's
I'm not used
okay.
to telling these stories other than like spooky time with my family and stuff. But
I love it.
this is my first time really telling
I'm here for it. I'm so
my
excited.
full story. Yeah. So, about from the age of 2 to 4, I lived with my grandparents. And Abigail was a little girl who actually unfortunately passed away. She fell down the stairs and broke her neck. I played with her and I seen her and I would blame her for things. She would throw my toys, she would throw them down the stairs. We would turn on the TV, like I said, just in the middle of the night. My grandparents also experienced her and seen her, as well as my dad. And then years after, they remodeled their house and they actually found pictures of her in their wall. And I immediately was like, that's Abigail. Now, mind you, when I seen her, she did present herself in the way she passed. So she was like scary to see. But she told me, she was like, you're my friend. We're friends. And I'm like, yeah, of course. So I was a kid and I was a lonely child and I played with her.
Can you tell me head to toe what she looked like?
Yeah. So she had
Thank
her
you.
head tilted to the side like this.
Oh, baby.
Yes. She had dark hair and it was longer, and she had just a little blue dress on, and she just looked like a little girl. Like she had a very like sweet face, but her neck was always like this.
Did she scare you at all? Did you feel scared when she was around, or you just felt very comforted and like she was your friend? Like you didn't even know that she was a ghostly apparition. It was more like, hey, this is my playtime friend.
Yes, she did scare me at times. She would hide and like pop out and scare me. Like I said, I could tell she wasn't alive. And then my dad would say things like, "Who are you talking to? Who are you playing with?" And I'm just like, Abigail. And I even found out her name before we even found out her name. I called her Abigail.
Oh, oh,
And My grandparents have had like people pulling on their toes. They hear running up and down the stairs or in the hallway at night. Not so much anymore. I have also went over there and tried to help her cross because I do feel like she needed that.
Mhm.
But years later, my little brother is 15. When he was 3 years old, they still live in the same house. He said that he's seen somebody underneath of the pool table. They have a pool table in their dining room instead of a dining room table.
Okay.
And he comes running and he's scared, and we're all just sitting there eating dinner. And he's, I seen somebody under the pool table. And I was like, what did she look like? And he said her neck was like this. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is Abigail.
Abigail.
Yes. So it started off with Abigail.
Okay.
And my whole family, we still talk about Abigail because it was just a big part of me. And
Yeah.
also, everybody else experienced her as well. Not in the same way as me. I obviously played with her and she felt more comfortable with me. And I told my parents that she lived in the closet, and that's just where she would come from, because they would ask, like, where does she
Yeah.
come from? And I'm like, in the closet. And she comes up to my bed and we sit on the bed and talk and play dolls. And it was just one of those things. And then around 4, we moved actually to the house across the street. I bought the house across the street from my parents' house. So I lived there for 15 years, and a lot of things happened there as well. But around the age of 3 or 4, I started talking to my dad about dreams that I would have of family members coming in my room at night and like hanging out with me. And I described my great grandma completely, what she
Who
was
you've
wearing at the
never met.
funeral. Had never met her.
Never
I
met.
had never met her. I didn't even know who she was at all. Maybe photos around my grandma's house, but it was never something that I remember them being like, this is your grandma Faye.
Oh,
But yeah,
stop it. Your grandma, your great grandmother's name is Faye.
yes.
It's not a very common name. That's my mom's name.
Oh, I love that.
F-A-Y though. So a lot of times they'll spell it F-A-Y-E. My mom's name
Yes.
is spelled F-A-Y.
Oh, I love that.
But isn't
Hers
that
was
funny?
FAIE. That is funny. That is so
I don't believe
funny.
in coincidences. There's
I
no
don't either.
evidence in
That's
that.
definitely a synchronicity because
Yes.
I've never heard anyone with that name either,
Oh,
honestly.
so funny.
Yeah, my grandma Faye, and my dad was like, that is crazy because they didn't allow me to go to the funeral. She did pass when I was young, but they didn't allow me to go to the funeral. I was just too young.
Yeah.
But I described her and I said she came in my room and sat on my bed and we hung out and talked. A dream state.
Okay.
So my whole childhood, I like lucid dreamed.
Okay.
So it was very hard for me. I didn't know when I was actually sleeping sometimes. Like I would sleepwalk and end up outside just like staring up at the sky. And my parents like had to put alarms and stuff because I was a very big sleepwalker and sleep talker.
Oh my
So
God.
I would wake up in these states, and that's where the entities and beings would be, I believe, is like the in between sleep and dream state for me. Because it looked just like my room, but there were beings there. They were like not even sometimes 100% human type of beings
Mm.
there, or shadow beings, or things like that. It spooked me out, honestly. As a kid, being 4 5 6 years old, I was terrified. They thought that I had like sleeping issues. They would take me to sleep studies. They even tried like medication at one point to try and get me to sleep because I would just wake up with terror because there's things in my room. I didn't know. I didn't know how to depict, and everything was fine. Like the medicine actually made it worse, if anything. That was something that I was a troubled child. I lost my mom when I was 11, 2 days after my 11th birthday. And she, prior to that, had gotten in a really bad car accident and was paralyzed from the waist down. So, living in her house, we also had a spirit that was there, that was a little boy. My mom would wake up in the middle of the night, like yelling to my little brother, Caleb, you need to get back into bed. And he would be asleep in the bed. And then I came to meet him, obviously, a little boy entity, and come to find out it was my brother who had passed when he was not even, he was like 6 hours old.
Oh.
And it was him who was in my mom's house. And I started talking about that. And then my mom was like, okay, I'm going to show her Preston's things. And she showed me his things. And I was like, yeah, I know him. I've met him and I've played with him and we've sat on my bed. Like all these entities that were good entities would sit on my bed
Oh.
and we would talk. And they would tell me, like, I'm not from here. You're asleep. And they would tell me who they were. And that's just what it was.
That's beautiful though that
Yeah.
you had those visitations. And I was a very similar child that
Yes.
I did not sleep at all. My mom was like, she had trouble like having me sleep. I would just be up. I was
Yeah,
just
me too.
up. Like I wasn't a sleepwalker. I was just up, like staring in the dark. And I've had episodes of where I would talk about my past and how that like delved into who I am. But I would have things from different realms that I didn't understand, and they
Hmm.
really spooked me out.
Yeah.
And I remember having to jump from my door frame to my bed because I felt like unsafe
I
for
remember doing
anything
stuff like that
around
too.
my, as if it was lava or something. And I would
Yes.
jump and I would be like,
Yes.
boom, onto the
Yep.
bed because my bed was my safe space.
Yes. Mine
But
too.
everything else was alive and moving and lots going on. I don't
Yes.
remember physically ever seeing anything, so I think I saw it clairvoyantly,
Yes.
but because there was nothing like physically there, but I knew and sensed stuff around me, just like you've experienced. So I think this is good for my listeners to hear and understand that I still sleep with the nightlight. Like I don't, I turn on the light sometimes and
Yeah.
close doors and make sure everything's, I do protection prayers and make sure everything's
Yep.
good. But there's definitely things that go bump in the night sometimes when
Yes.
you're sensitive like we are.
I am really starting to come out with this because I really suffered and ran from it for so long. Because when I would tell people about it, they would think that I was crazy
Yeah.
or psychotic or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like I couldn't help it as a kid. I
No.
couldn't help the that's what I knew. That's all I knew as a kid. And it wasn't an imagination. It was something that really truly affected me and
Mhm.
made me feel like I was completely different because I would try to like talk to other kids about it. And like they didn't have that. Like I learned at a very young age that other people didn't even dream. And I had whole places that I would go consciously and like I would be able to jump so high I could fly and do all this stuff in my sleep. And other people didn't have that. And then
No.
I always have an internal voice as well that I listen to a lot. And I noticed that was different when I actually started going to church as a kid. My parents would make me go to church. And I had a really tough time with it because the whole time I was in church, I had like this internal voice that was telling me like I connected to God differently.
Mhm.
And I remember telling my Sunday school teacher that, like, I connect with God differently. And I was probably about 9 or 10. And around 9 or 10 is when the entity stopped bothering me at night as much.
Okay.
I didn't see as much. I would still see shadow figures who I felt like more observed me than anything. And I've actually had shadow figures my whole life, everywhere I've ever been. I have a story of a shadow figure. And to me now, it's not scary to me anymore, but it scared other people for
Oh,
sure. Like other
definitely.
people have seen it. When I was 13 in my bedroom, yes.
We can tell that story if you'd like. It's a heavier one, so forewarning for my
It,
sensitive listeners, because I
yeah,
have
that
some
one
people
was
like sometimes I have trouble listening to things being sensitive, like of that, where
yeah.
it's like almost too much for me, but I listen to it and I know how authentic you are and like you come from a good place and it's not like you asked for this thing to come forward. Like,
No, to be honest, I never asked for anything to come forward. I will start saying, we'll start from the point of when my mom passed away.
okay.
That is when, my whole childhood, I seen a lot of family members, a lot of other entities that observed me, but didn't necessarily bother me. They just were scary because I didn't understand. And then when my mom passed away, I actually, like 3 days before my mom passed away, I had a dream of her passing. And it was a dream that was one of those lucid dreams, consciously there dreams. And I remember on my birthday, which was May 8th, 2 days before she passed away, my school went to a field trip at a graveyard and we used crayons and paper and went to really old.
We did that.
It was so weird. It was so strange. And then my mom had never done this before, but she sent 12 bouquets of flowers to the school and balloons to my school. So when we got back from this field trip, I was like, I had all these balloons and flowers, and I was just like, wow. And then as soon as I got home from school, she called me because I didn't live with her. She was disabled and I lived with my dad. So I would go and visit her.
Okay.
But she had called me and we talked on the phone and she just told me she loved me like a million times. Like we would do that. Like she would call me and be like, Nana, come here. And that was my nickname growing up. And she would be like, I love you. And I would say, I love you too, like a million times back and forth. And then as a kid, I was like, oh, okay, mom. Like we've said it like 4,000 times. And then she did that. And I remember not even caring that day. And then I just knew before my family told me, and I went over to my mom's house. I had already known.
Mm.
And then she actually came to me in my dreams. I had vivid dreams with her for years. I still will every once in a while. Now I more hear her and can feel her, and there's synchronicities that I'm like, oh, that's my mom. But she taught me how to do that through my dreams. She
That's
truly did. And I believe, obviously, like my mom, I was young, so we didn't sit and talk about this, but I remember the talks we did have. And she was a very, you've got to love yourself kind of person. Like you've got to care for yourself. You've got to nourish yourself. You've got to love yourself. You have to have a good heart and lead with your heart and stuff like that. She was a very loving person. And I almost wonder, was she a dreamer? Did she have,
mm.
was she sensitive? I almost wonder if she was. And she taught me how to do that. And then around 13, I had an entity come into my room, and it was one of those nights I woke up and I just felt like something was in my room. I heard you say that in one of your podcasts, how you wake up and you can feel it.
Mm.
I still have that to this day. And
Mm.
been having those recently. And that's when I'm like, okay, I need to ground and set my boundaries.
Yeah.
But I woke up and I heard my stepmom leave. My dad worked third shift, so she would have to get him at 5 in the morning. So I heard her leave to go, and I could hear her back out of the driveway. And then, probably 5 minutes after that, I started hearing walking, and I was in a basement room.
No, nobody else was in the house.
Nobody
The
else
the
was
stepmom
there.
left. Okay.
Stepmom left. My dad was at work. It was just me.
Okay.
We had 10-pound dogs at the time, like little Lhasa Apsos. It was like 10, 15-pound dogs.
Yeah.
So they weren't very big at all.
Yeah.
And I could hear anytime anybody walked on the hallway, I could hear it.
Yeah.
And so I heard walking, like loud footsteps too. Doom, doom. And it was almost like at a perfect pace. And then I could hear it walk down the stairs. And then I heard it walk up to my door, and my door opens. Immediately, I turn inward and face the wall. I'm like, nope. I put my blanket over my head. That's what I would do when something was in there. And I would just go to my happy place. I would call on like my guides, my angels, my mom, like anybody I could think of, I would call on to them because it freaked me out. And this one was especially strong. Like as soon as it came into my room, I just almost felt paralyzed in fear. Like I couldn't move from that state. And then I heard it. It walked over behind me and it was standing at the edge of my bed. And I could hear it breathe like very deep. And I had never heard an entity breathe before either. So it almost made me wonder, is this an actual person that broke into the house?
I'm like, look at me. I'm like,
I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm 13 years old. I know nobody's home. And I didn't even have a cell phone at that time either. So I was really just down there, like every man for themselves. So I just lay there and it seemed like forever. And it only took about 35 minutes for my stepmom, but I swear it was observing me for an hour, is what it felt like. And then it walked away and I heard it walk away and it didn't touch me. I didn't feel anything other than just I could not move. Like even if I wanted to turn around, I don't think that I could. And when I heard it walk away, it stopped and I waited a little bit and I'm like, okay, maybe it's just gone. Maybe I didn't hear my door close or anything because my door was left open. And I have always been someone who sleeps actually in the dark. Even though I have this occur to me, I do sleep in the dark because I feel like if I have light on, then I wake up even more.
mm,
So outside of the room, there is a laundry room and the light is always on out there. So it like illuminated into my room. And I was like, okay, I'm going to turn around real quick. So I turn around and I look and it's just standing looking at itself. And I could tell by the silhouette that it was like on its side and it was just standing, staring at itself. And I just watch it, and then it just sucks up into the mirror. Just literally, like within an instant, just sucks up into the mirror. There's no noise, no nothing. But as soon as it does that, my door slams so hard that I'm like jumping, like it made me jump in the bed, and then my light turned on. He was probably about 8 feet tall. Like it was all the way up to the ceiling. And it was a little shorter ceilings in the basement. And it looked like more of a masculine figure, but it was just very tall and just big. Like it was a big being. And even the sound of the footsteps was very heavy. And like I could see it had like a nose shape, like the silhouette of it. I didn't see any hair, anything like that, just a big, huge, tall, dark being. And it just sucked right up into the mirror.
Was it all like a black shadowy figure? He threw it, or was it
It
solid in figure?
it was pretty much solid, but it was almost like it was reflective at the same time. Like you could see through it, but it was more of like the reflection of the light, if that makes sense. Like it was like a hue maybe around it, but it itself was pretty solid.
Okay. And this did not have a hat on it, correct? The Hat Man.
No,
Okay.
no, no
The Hat
hat.
Man usually doesn't, of all the people who have seen him, encountered the Hat Man.
I haven't heard of the Hat Man. Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
so the Hat Man, I can explain it quickly.
Okay.
My son has seen it. It comes to be an observer. This is what I got. It's an interdimensional being, which is exactly what I think you encountered. It's
Hmm.
something from a different realm, not of this like earthly plane. It's from a different plane and is like coming in and out as it chooses. It's not going to cause you any harm, just like the Hat Man. The Hat Man is there to observe and but he's creepy as anything. He just
Yeah.
usually stands still and he is always observed with a hat and he's solid black or like a silhouette of black. And he has that sleep paralysis, like you can't move, you get
Hmm.
frozen in time. So he has those usually, and then he'll disappear into a closet, disappear into, I don't know if I've ever heard of the mirror, but they'll have that time travel, like slip into the other dimension, or the person will close their eyes and open and they're gone, kind of thing. That's the
That's
Hat Man.
interesting.
Yeah,
And
millions and millions of people have seen.
that was my first encounter with a shot, like a big, huge shadow man
Yeah.
of that, especially one that I could hear breathe and who
Hmm.
made me feel that way. But as time has went on, I feel like that's the same one that will come back. Or maybe like it's another like shadow person, but I have those observers a couple times a year, I would say, that I'll wake up and I will see them in the corner of my room or sometimes right next to me. And now, like I said, I have my I know my free will and I have my boundaries and I'm quick to tell spirit, no, you are not welcome in my room, in my space right now. It's not happening. Especially if I've been fighting and struggling for sleep and then something like that occurs. It's yeah. So that being really changed how I looked at things that night. I was absolutely terrified. Shortly after that, probably within the year, I'd say, I was redecorating my room and I had gotten this old vintage lamp from a yard sale. And that lamp, and I don't know how I feel about entities connecting to like objects. I don't
Material.
really know how I
Hmm.
feel about it. I haven't done much research, but I feel like this lamp had one.
Oh, definitely.
And that lamp would be on at night. And I did not sleep with lights on, even though, like I said, I had those experiences. I like to sleep in the dark. And that light would be on at night. And one night I woke up and I heard fast counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like fast, up and down, just like counting. And when I heard this and I woke up and I was like, what is that? And then it would like laugh. Like when I would start getting scared, it was like, and it was like super creepy. And
Oh my gosh.
I was like, stop.
Yeah.
I was like, you need to stop. And I was like freaked out because it
Hmm.
was like in my head. It wasn't anything I heard. It was like
Hmm.
in my head. And I
Hmm.
was like, oh my gosh. So I ran upstairs, woke up my dad. which my whole childhood, there was many running upstairs to wake up my dad because I was spooked
Same. I was
out.
sleeping with I was like in double digits, like teen years almost, sleeping with my parents still in between, right in the middle.
Aw. That was me though.
Yeah,
But
I know.
he wouldn't let me
Same.
sleep in the bed with him. He was like, you need to go just go lay down on the couch. And sure enough, it followed me up there and started up there. And then I started screaming, and my dad ran down. He's like, what is going on? And I'm like, these spirits.
So
Like,
your dad was actually getting disturbed and woken by these, and he was getting the like seeing things or having things waking him as well?
so I will say, not over the lamp. That night, it was me that woke him up.
Yeah.
When they first bought that house, though, we did have a lot of activity that they would also hear.
Mm.
Music, people talking. They would whisper like my stepmom's name. They would go, Lisa, in my dad's ear. And then he would wake up and be like, what in the world? And then vice versa to my dad or to my stepmom saying my dad's name. I obviously was wigging out when we first moved into that house because that's where I experienced the dream with my grandma. That's when I had beings that would come up and sit in my room with me. I started experiencing shadow figures. We heard a lot of talking. We would be eating dinner and the kitchen sink would just turn on full blast. Like you would see it raise up and just go full blast. Lights would go on and off. So my parents experienced it as well. So it wasn't anything that like when I came to them that they were like, oh, she's making this up
Mm.
because they also experienced some weird stuff. Not to the extent I did, but yeah, they would have things move. We had this really weird time, I remember, where we would find bleached out clothing rolled into tight little balls underneath of the stairs. And that was really weird. We never figured out like what happened with that. Never happened again. Only happened that once. And then one time too, we found a little old grandma house dress in our laundry, and no one wore those in the house. So that was very weird. Yeah, very.
Did your dad and your stepmom have any inclination of like how to deal with, did they talk openly about, oh, that's weird, or did they shrug it off? I'm just curious of what the mindset was of that generation, because most of the time they didn't talk about stuff. They just brushed it off. So I don't know if that's how they handled it. So tell me more about.
Sure. So one night, actually, this is when they started like taking it a little bit more seriously because at first they would shrug it off,
Hmm.
like just like they were into that kind of like ghost paranormal ghost adventures type of thing.
Yeah.
Like they would take us as kids to like spooky cemetery,
Mm.
abandoned insane asylums and stuff like that, so they were open to the idea.
Yep.
They were also open to the idea of me believing in everything that I believed in because I've always felt very differently than everybody around me, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. And they would listen and they were very open with that. But one night we were moving around. My stepmom loved to move around furniture all the time. So we were moving the living room and our TV was unplugged and it came on. The TV just turned on several times. And around the time of I was probably about 13. So we had already lived there for a long time. But they started opening Bibles as was what they decided to start doing. They started opening Bibles, especially when it started like disturbing their sleep, like whispering in their ear and stuff like that.
Okay.
They didn't really like that.
No,
They
nobody
didn't
would
like
like
that
that.
part. Yeah, they're like, no, we don't really like this whispering each other's names in our ears and
Mm.
stuff like that. They could deal with the hearing talking downstairs or like the occasional footsteps,
Or
but
this thing going on, they're like, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But I will say one thing that occurred was my stepsister was spending the night. She spent like every other weekend with us. And she also experienced stuff in the house as well. She was sleeping upstairs and there was a house fire going on. And the lamp next to her bed was like a crystal dangly lamp. It started like shaking and moving and woke her up because it was like clinging together. And she woke up and the lamp was doing all that. And then she noticed smoke upstairs and ran downstairs. And my parents were just asleep and their wall was on fire. So she had to like obviously wake them up, and
Yeah.
like she got woken up, and she claims that was a spirit that woke her up to let her know that the house was on fire. I
Wow.
was in the basement at that time on sleeping medicine. So I had no idea of what was going on. And I woke up and started eating a banana.
You're like,
Everyone's
it's
like, you need to
perfect
get out
time.
of
It's all good, guys.
bed. I'm
I
like,
got a
I just need a
banana.
snack.
I'll put it out with the banana.
But yeah, that house, like I said, every house I've ever been in, even apartments, I've had spooky stuff happen. And again, I come from an open family about it. We openly would tell ghost stories. My parents would have friends that came over that would also talk about ghost stories. So that was just something that we shared. And then for me, I just felt like I had it a little differently than just paranormal stuff. I feel like it really affected me, and I could like feel the energy differently, and almost like they would just engage with me.
Mhm.
They would try and tell me stuff and observe me, and yeah, it just felt a little different. So around the age of 15, 16, being a troubled child, I really didn't focus much on spiritual connection throughout my teenage years. So I'll get into my near death experience now. My near death experience, I was 16 years old, and my friend and I were going over to hang out with her boyfriend at the time. She was actually pregnant. Now that I was like thinking about back on the story, she was actually pregnant. And we were going over to see her child's father and just hang out. No big deal. No big plans, no party or anything like that. But he had a substance that we all tried. And I had never had this kind before, but I was open to trying it. And all it took was one use, one hit of using this substance. And almost immediately, I knew I needed to sit down. Like I almost felt like I was immediately just going to fall out and pass out. And so they helped me over to a futon and I sat down, and I just immediately laid back and slipped into a place of consciousness. I was immediately like unaware of my body, unaware of my surroundings, but I still had like my own thought in a way,
Mm.
because I immediately told myself, I'm dying. Like I am dying. And as I laid back, everything got really black. And then I started seeing like a grid or a lattice. It's hard to explain. It's like almost like lines everywhere, all over. And I just slipped into the hue of the light of the grid. I didn't see anything. I was just like stuck in this space of consciousness. And I just kept saying, I am going to die. I just kept repeating to myself in my head, I am dying. I'm going to die. And then immediately a feminine voice came in and she was like, you're not going to die. I am here for you. You have so much more to do on this earth. You're going to be okay. You just need to listen to me. Like she was bold, just giving me advice, like, you're not going to die. You're going to be okay. And immediately, like, I just felt hugged and comfort and love. And I was just like, okay. Like the only thing that I was aware of in my body was my heart rate and my breathing. That's really the only thing. And then the one side of my brain telling me, like, hey, you're going to die. And then the other side immediately being like, you're not done here. So as I was going through this process of just being in this space, she would tell me, like, she was coaching me, like, when to take breaths. Even though I couldn't take my, she was telling me, she was like, okay, now you're going to feel your heart rate get very slow, but it's okay. I need you to just breathe. And I would feel the process of like my heart rate getting really slow and then like fast. And I would like almost feel myself like jerk up. It was very odd. And she was just coaching me. She was like, okay, you need to breathe. You're going to be okay. Just motivating me to just stay present. And she was like, you cannot leave. You're not ready. You have so much more ahead of you. And once I came to and came out of this space, which this is something I forgot to talk about in my childhood, I did have out of body experiences and would feel like I would wake up feeling my soul like entering my body, is the only way I can literally explain it as a kid.
Mm.
And I felt that. I felt like my soul like just re-enter my body, and I like came to. And when I came to, I had all these people around me and they had rags on my face, and I had been vomiting and seizuring, and my best friend said that my eyes just rolled in the back of my head and I just fell back and started seizuring and like foaming out of the mouth and vomiting. And I was not aware of any of that. I was just in this space with this comforting voice telling me, like, you've got this, you're okay, you're gonna make it, just breathe, you're not gonna die. And yeah, after that, it was something that I never told my parents about. We never spoke about. I did not go and get medical attention. I will say to anybody listening, please go get medical attention if anything like that ever occurs to you. I felt very out of place after that as well. Almost like sad that I couldn't go. Like I said, I was very troubled. And that was not my intent when I did this. Obviously, I was just trying to hang out with friends and do things that we shouldn't have been doing. And
We've all been there. We've all had our
yep,
teenage years. Don't you worry. Not all of us are.
we're not here to be perfect. Right?
Exactly.
We're not here to be perfect.
Exactly. How long do you think were you in that space? Do you remember? Did it feel like infinity? And the way that you describe it is almost like I didn't have a near-death experience, but I had where my soul went out of my body because I was in so much pain that I experienced something and I felt it still tethered into my tummy. Like I felt it pull from my solar plexus.
Yes.
The pain lightened. I still felt the pain. I was still conscious of my body, but I was up above my body. And I was like, what the hell's happening?
Yes. That, yeah, it's so hard for me to explain it because time didn't exist. I can't put a finger on like how long I was there. It felt like I was in that state forever. I didn't even feel like I necessarily needed to come back is what it felt like. Like I could just keep going into the whiteness and or the lightness of everything that was surrounding me. I almost wanted to, but the
Mm.
voice was like, no, you still have plenty of things that you need to do here. And I'm so thankful that I didn't go because I think I'm probably 3 months, if that, after that occurred, I found out I was pregnant. Again, doing things that I shouldn't have.
Wow.
But I found out I was pregnant. And my daughter, I've had a lot of health issues in my life, and I probably would have never had a child if I didn't in that moment. And she, I feel like, really saved me and got me back on a path I was supposed to be on because I
Mhm.
was really going down a very dangerous path for myself and not listening to myself and not connected to myself. And after that experience, like I said, I felt very out of place. It took me like literally like a month to start feeling normal again. I just felt very like distant
Do you think you were living on both planes kind of thing? What do you mean? Do you mean physically or do you mean like spiritually?
spiritually.
Okay.
I felt very, yeah, like almost in two planes, like very detached. I
Were
felt,
like confused of why you're still like what's going on
yeah,
kind of thing, like your surroundings.
yeah. And like I said, it was something that we never spoke about. And even still to this day, it's something that my friend and I who was there, we've talked about it, but it really terrified her. Like she was like, I thought that you were going to die. And no one could find a phone. It was just one of those situations that like 911 should have been called immediately. They did not. I'm very thankful for everyone that was there that did breathe for me and keep me there, keep me somewhat like they said that I was like coherent. I was like responding like with groans and stuff after I stopped seizing. I was not aware of that.
Um,
I did feel like I was still connected though. I said like I felt like a pull or something.
yeah.
That's the only way I can explain it, like how you did. I just felt a pull. And
Mhm.
then she was like, no, you need to breathe. You need to
Mhm.
listen to your heart, feel your heart. You're gonna feel it go slow, you're gonna feel it go fast. And she just kept me in the motion to like stay here, is how it felt. And I don't feel like it was my mom that was there either. And I reflect back a lot on that instance, and it's almost like that. I feel like it was a guide. It's almost like that guide comes back in and like checks in with me to be like, how are you doing? Are you still moving forward? Type of thing. Because that's what she kept telling me. You need to keep moving forward. You're not done here. And I think about that just randomly. That experience will just come into my mind, especially like I was diagnosed with cancer in 2023 and I'm free of it now. But around that time, it's almost like she came back and she was like, now what else do you need to release from your life? Kind of thing to make yourself lighter to keep moving forward.
Mm,
And I'm very thankful for that. And that is really after that time is when I started working more closely with like spirit guides and really understanding we are not alone. I was not in that space of like me telling myself I'm dying
mhm.
for very long before she slid in and was like, you're not. There's so much more for you here. And that is what I like cherish the most is we're not alone, even when we feel alone, even when they say you die alone, you don't.
You don't. Never. There's
So
always
I
somebody
would
there.
love to know exactly who it was that came forward that day because I know when I get to the other side, I'm gonna thank them and hug them and
Oh,
rejoice with them and
yeah.
because I'm so thankful that I didn't go
Yeah.
that night.
Do you want me to like tap into it and see? I can definitely do that for you.
If you want, yeah.
Because I
I
think
love
when
that.
you were telling the story originally, when I watched it online, this is what makes me a little different as an interviewer, right?
Mhm.
That I can add this little twist onto it. But I always want to ask permission before and just making sure that you're okay with it. But when you had originally posted the story, I think I got like a spirit guide. And then as you were talking, I was like, gosh, I feel like so much maternal, like this grandmotherly energy with the person who stepped forward for you, which often I find that spirit guides are not relatives. I find that a lot of our loved ones and relatives are there for us in the same fact of like spirit guides, like to guide us and move us. I'm I'm getting more of this grandmotherly energy. That's who that was. And they're very protective over you. And they almost feel like they're aligning you with your soul's purpose. Like they're to remind you of like your, because you're blood related and you have that relationship, that it's to guide you, to keep you from not reliving past traumas and things and to move forward and like to lift the family ties up,
Yeah.
lift the family up and bring them all up
Mhm.
with you. And she just feels like beautiful and lovely, almost like part of the angelic realm. I find a lot of our loved ones were definitely angels here on earth. So she feels like that loving, embracing, and almost like grabbing you with her wings. So she's beautiful.
And that's how it felt too, was like just like a big hug is how it felt.
So when you explain the weaving that you went into, is it almost like seeing like the matrix of the, it wasn't like codes and numeric, it was
No.
like fabric, almost like a weaving, or did it all go? I'm so curious. I'm like, and then you said, because it was dark and then all of a sudden it was light. So when
Yes.
did that transition? Do you remember that transitioning?
I do remember that transitioning. So immediately as I fell out, it was dark. And then as like this lattice of weaving, like it literally looked like a grid, like a
Like
lattice.
crossing. It
Yeah.
wasn't all like one direction, it was crossing. Okay.
It was crossing. And I will say it did start going like lines, like on a TV. But at first, it's like it settled in and it was like grid. And then like the lines like started going back and forth to the point that it was just like all white. And then it was like a white hue almost, but I could still see the grid.
Okay.
And what's crazy, and another thing is ever since that point, anytime I come out of like a meditation or like a deep thinking, I will start actually like I can see that grid every once in a while still. And I've
Mm,
had an MRI done and I've had an eye doctor to make sure it wasn't like floaters or something because it
yeah.
happened one time when I was driving and it scared me.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I need to get that checked. And I've had everything checked and nothing like comes up that would cause that. But it's like a very faint, like when I'm awake, a very faint grid or like a lattice.
I can't remember. My sister was in like a psych class, I want to say, in college. And she came back and she was so excited to tell us about what she learned. And there is, I don't shoot the messenger because I don't know the who came up with this theory, but it's called string theory. And like everything, like our whole reality, like everything that you're looking at is like this woven string.
I've heard
And
that
so
too.
it reminds me of like the Matrix as well, of like the codes and symbols and everything's coded, and we see it and perceive it as our solid reality, but it's really not. It's like this fabricated
Yeah, I've heard of that theory
illumination.
too. I believe in that, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
That's what makes sense to me. And especially like what I've seen, like I really do feel like consciousness and all of the ties that we create just weave together into
Yeah.
our own tapestry of reality.
S- So now that you've gone through that whole experience and we've gone through your past, and to help my listeners like figure out, I know what I do when I set boundaries. So when you set boundaries, are you praying? Are you saging? What are you doing so that way I can help my listeners with any of these situations that they're having as well, to help them like clear their space, make sure they're safe, all the things.
Yeah. So I will say that I do sage
Mm,
regularly. I actually do that. I do believe in that to clear my space, clear the energy, set a foundation of my intentions that what kind of energy I want to come in, the energy I intend. With my spiritual boundaries, I feel like I still am working on those and in the classroom with that. But I will say, when I started setting clear intentions and using free will,
mhm,
setting boundaries,
mhm.
like just speaking the boundary. No, I do not want spirit in my room at night. No, I do not want spirit to come to me in my head through my own voice as I'm driving for messages for other people. I
Yeah,
don't like that.
yeah,
Just setting clear boundaries, because boundaries are important with our humans as
mhm.
well with our spirits and with ourselves.
Beautiful.
So
And I,
that's how I do it.
yeah. My main thing is I ground my energy. That's the
Yes,
biggest thing I feel like
grounding.
that people don't realize is huge for protecting your space. And so grounding, guys, I've talked about this a million times before, but if you're a new listener, grounding is like picturing tree roots coming out of your feet into Mother
Yep.
Earth. So that way it anchors you. You're not just flying, floating all over the place. And then I imagine myself as like an energetic shield. Like I'll do a
Yes.
couple of layers and ask for God's white light to cover me and only things for my good and highest purpose,
Yes.
highest good.
Yep.
Yeah, all those things. And like sometimes, so I don't know if you've had this, but sometimes spirit will still disrespect me. I'll do all of those things and they'll still be touching me. And I'm like, excuse you. Then
Yes.
I then I get nasty. Then I'm like, you gotta get out of here.
Yes.
So they have their own free will as well. They don't hurt me. They just scare me. And I'm just
Yes.
like, get the heck out of here.
Yes.
So rude.
Yes, I have that in spaces that I've like never been to before. Like when I go to a new place, I will have them like disrespect my boundaries that I have set everywhere else. And I'm like,
Mm,
no. Like I do a lot of grounding every single night actually. I go out and I ground several times a day, but anytime I feel called, I ground. But
yeah.
every night I take out time to ground under the stars, connecting to source, connecting
Mm,
to the earth, connecting to myself, to anyone and everyone.
I love it.
Who's
Rain, I so appreciate you sharing all of your stories and being so open and
Yeah.
honest, because I really feel like I don't share this a lot on my podcast. And what I was explaining to you before is like, I try to do the more uplifting and positive. And I loved your NDE story. And I definitely feel that with that story. But it's like, we definitely have energies that come around us that, you know, are just not of the highest good, and we need
Yes.
to know how to manage them. So I think that's the whole purpose of why I wanted to have you on and discuss that during these times.
Yeah.
Because I feel like around Halloween, there's definitely always ramped up activity. I don't know if you get that as well.
Yes, I definitely feel that as well.
Yeah,
And yeah, I'm not sure what causes it around like
I
Halloween,
know.
but
It's like the veil is thinner or something.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's definitely important to understand that even ourselves, our own souls, we're multidimensional.
Mm,
So these beings and entities that, especially if you're like sensitive or empathic or in tune and aligned, they want to observe you or want to even if they don't have good intentions, do what they do. And yeah, understanding that it's not, I mean, a lot of it, especially when it's aligned with the right purpose, is love and light.
Yeah.
But especially as a child, like if you don't know and you've not been taught, and that's how it came with me. Like I've always been connected to spirit and had things happening to me. I just never understood them,
Exactly.
which made me run from myself for a
Yeah.
long time, because now I'm feeling more called. I need to share these stories. I need to share my experiences. I need to share what I've witnessed and what I know. I really appreciate you having me on and giving
Yeah.
me a
Thank,
platform to share my story.
of course.
And I
Of
love
course.
that.
Oh,
I appreciate that forever.
so cute. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I just appreciate you. And thank you so much for telling your story.